Hello, I'm Rachel from Dwensa Garden in Ireland, and you are very welcome to this September greenhouse tour. So today I'll be showing you around my glasshouse where I have my permanent collection of, well, I have a lot of succulents, I have a lot of South African bulbs. I also have this border behind me which is permanently planted up in the ground with plants that wouldn't normally survive the winter outside here in Ireland. I guess you could equate my gardening zone with US hardiness zone 9, although we don't use that system here in Ireland. So we're going to have an extensive look, I suppose, around the glasshouse, and then a brief look at the greenhouse, because that's where the work happens, that's where plants get propagated, seeds get sown. I have so many biennial seedlings in there at the moment. And yeah, I will briefly show you around there, although it is a bit of a mess. So I guess let's get on with the video. It's a bit of a blustery day today, so you may hear the wind kind of blowing in the background, and I hope we don't have rain, because when the rain happens then it kind of drums on the ceiling of the glass house and affects the acoustics. Anyway, we'll keep going and see how far we get. Anyway, I'm very excited to share what's in flower with you in my glass house, because I have some exciting things coming into bloom, and also just to show you how some plants are looking, because it's not always about flowers. And flowers are lovely, don't get me wrong. Out in the open garden I love to have big borders full of colour, but here in the glass house sometimes there are more interesting plants that their form or their structure is what it's all about. So for anyone who's new here, you can see that this side of the glass house, I guess this is the right hand side as you come in, has some boards on it which display my permanent collection. This is my permanent potted collection. And on the lower shelf we have mostly plants that are dormant. So this may apply to South African bulbs that are winter growers and have been dormant in the summer, although I do see some little buds peeping. On the floor we have potted specimens that are really too heavy for the shelving, and these are mostly South African bulbs. And on the left we have my subtropical border, which is permanently planted with the likes of cannas and protea and gingers. And I want to start over here because the canna here, this is Canna Musifolia. It's called that because its leaves look like a musa, like a banana. And my goodness, look at it. It's doing so well. It is now taller than me, which is a real result. It is a big clump though. I don't know how on earth you would manage this outdoors, where you have to dig it up in autumn and bring it under shelter for the winter, because you would never get something like this in a pot. You'd be constantly dividing it, with the result that, you know, you're weakening the plant and then you're starting from a lower position, a further back position each year when you replant it out in the garden. Anyway, enough of that. That is not something I do anymore. What I do is I permanently leave this canna. I really want to call it a banana. That's what keeps slipping into my mind, but it is a canna. And I permanently leave it here in the border. And there is a 5-degree minimum in this greenhouse in winter. So there's a heater that goes in and just keeps things ticking over at a 5-degree minimum. And that means no frost. And the result is that's 41 Fahrenheit for those who are watching from across the pond. And yeah, and I'm really pleased with this. The big question now is whether I need to divide this and perhaps take some of it out, because it is spreading a lot. But you know, this is what I wanted. I wanted the foliage along this side of the border to be tall and to kind of give me the feeling of being enclosed by exotic and jungle-like greenery. Okay, so I guess another thing to mention is the salvia down there, and this is a mega tall salvia. Now, this is a gorgeous salvia with soft pink furry flowers that just go on and on. So the flowers start at the base of the spike and then they work their way up, and I still have flowers. Even the buds are a thing of beauty with their tiny little curly wheeze. But this is a very tall plant, as you can see, and so much so that it's actually escaping out the door. It bumped its head on the glass up above and then decided, well, actually, no, I'll go out the door. Well, I was talking to Hazel from Kilmurray, which is where I actually bought this, and she said that what you can do is just cut it back a bit earlier. Chelsea chop, I guess, is what it would technically be. Is that a technical term? Anyway, it's a well-known term in the trade. And it is a plant that you need to cut back in spring. So I guess let it grow a bit and then cut it back a bit later on so that you delay flowering, which I don't necessarily want. But what I do want is for it to be less tall. Now, it's so easy to propagate. And actually, when I cut this back in spring, I propagated a couple of plants from it. And I'm going to experiment with leaving one of those outdoors in the border over winter because, well, okay, I mean, even if it doesn't work, it is a beautiful plant to have outdoors in your garden as well as in the greenhouse. This is a biennial plant from Madeira Island, which is off the coast of Africa. And I was delighted to actually see this growing there when I was in Madeira 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Now, it looks gorgeous up until the point when it flowers with these large, soft, tactile leaves. I absolutely love it. But you can see how down below things are getting a bit squeezed out. We have an agapanthus in there, a variegated agapanthus that, well, it's losing space. I do have to keep cutting off the lower leaves of the canna so that things will get a bit more light. Now, I really like the idea of having a large rosette in the border, which I have with the Musschia, and I've echoed it over here with this Echium wildpretii. Echium wildpretii is actually hardy for me outdoors, and I do have it planted in the garden, but this was just my backup. When I planted them all outdoors in the garden, I decided, well, I'll put one little plant in here in the border just in case we get a particularly harsh winter. Needless to say, the one here in the glasshouse is doing much better than the ones outdoors in the garden. Directly above the Musschia, we have my Protea. Now, this Protea is actually in a pot. It's not planted in the border because it needs, less moisture. It's more arid than the other plants. It's growing quite well, but I have a surprise. I did notice that this year, over the other side, I have a bud already. So there's a bud forming. This is a bit early. Usually this plant flowers for me in spring. And over here is a plant that I forgot to mention in the last couple of videos, and somebody requested it. So this is the tree Crinum that you saw me buy as a, I want to say bulb, but it wasn't a bulb. It was a section of trunk that was sent to me in the post by mail order, and I potted it up and it has grown so well. So it's a dark-leafed Crinum, tree Crinum, and these are plants, I guess, that need more than 5 degrees centigrade minimum in winter, 41 Fahrenheit. They need to be kept in the house, and certainly I brought it into the house last winter where it has done really well. Probably needs a pot on now at this stage, but it's doing really well, and the coloration, the dark coloration on the leaves got more intense when I took it from the house and brought it out to the glasshouse for the summer. You can see these outer leaves, I guess, were formed indoors, and the central ones, which are more intensely dark red, they came about while it was out here. But anyway, it's a great plant. It gets kind of like a dead skin on the trunk, and I just peeled it off recently, just took off the dead skin. My husband says it looks like a leek, a giant leek. He has no idea. And it's sending up pups. So yeah, I'm kind of pleased with this, and I wonder how big it'll get. Always a wonder with these things. just leaning over it, we have Salvia dombeyi, which had beautiful red hanging flowers. These are the bracts remaining now, so there's no actual flower to show you at the minute, although we do have some coming. Very tall salvia once again that I am using a support for at the back of the border, and I guess this border has tended to encompass, well, first of all, too many gingers and too many cannas, and I've kind of cut back, took a load of the gingers out in spring because they were just getting too much of a dense rooty mass and inhibiting other things from coming up. But now I'm tending to favour the salvias. Oh well, we all have our favourites, I guess. And here we have a few of my fancier Aeoniums. On the right we have Cyclops, looking, well, fantastic really. Just wanted to get a little bit bigger and I'll be happy. Next we have Sienna. Now this is not an Aeonium, it's a cross between Aeonium and houseleek, and this should red up nicely, although it's not there yet. To its left, another Semponium, and this one is called Destiny. And don't worry, we'll see another example of that as we go around the greenhouse. And then finally, an Aeonium called Pomegranate. And for those who asked, over here we have the tree cabbage. The cabbage tree is growing, but I do wish it would get a bit more leafy. So now moving over to here, and it's hard to know even where to start with so many different things in pots. Don't want to bore you, don't want to make the video too long, but I do want to satisfy those of you who are actually interested in these plants. But the first thing I will show you is this Amarine. And I have a big pot of Amarines here. Only 2 are flowering. And as you can see, they're actually different ones. So one is a dark pink and one is a light pink. This I purchased last year and I fed it, but I guess I didn't feed it enough. I only fed a couple of times, and the result is I only have 2 flowers, but I suppose really as time goes on, I may get some more, because Amarines, like, they flower right into autumn. Now, with that in mind, I do have a bit of success with my own Amarines that I've grown for a couple of years, and here we go. Whoa. So this one is Aphrodite, and as you can well see, she has a lovely spike coming up there. There she is. And I'm really looking forward to how these flowers are. And there's a second one, so it's very strange, like they were bought together and neither of them flowered until now. So, and yet this year both of them are in flower, so I don't know, go figure. Here's the second one, and the flower spike is less advanced. Oh, but so very much still there. Obviously, this is my Amarine year, because just as I looked now into this big clump, I saw another spike coming up there. So I wonder, is this going to be a pale one or a dark pink one? Now, I have had various cacti in bloom, but you know how this goes. They only last for one day, the cactus flowers. So, you know, like, it's highly unlikely that one is ever going to peep in the middle of a video. But I did have them. Honestly, on the shelf you can see some of the new pots I got this year. I've planted things in them, potted things up in them, and this little fella down below I absolutely love. But actually I haven't yet edited the video that showed me getting these pots in Thailand, so you'll just have to wait for that. So here we have the Strelitzia that you saw me repotting earlier on. This has come out for the summer, but it will go back indoors for the winter. I think it needs a warmer temperature. And we have little Euphorbia. I'm mad about the Codex plants at the moment, as you probably know. And this one here is just gorgeous. I should have potted it on again this year, just raising the stem further out of the soil, and then I would have a better result now. But I didn't do that, so yeah, but it's still looking great. And there is something here at the back in the shade that I do want to share with you, because here it is. And this is Gymnocalycium, and this is the moon cactus, or, well, what can I say? The moon cactus is one that is chemically induced and ends up with completely red skin, with the result that it has to be grafted on top of some other green chlorophyll loving cactus in order to survive. Now this is a Gymnocalycium, and it does have some green in it. It doesn't have many roots, but I am hoping that it will do well. So look out for the ones that have some chlorophyll like this, and hopefully they will grow for you. I'm going to take this indoors now because it's just that little bit fussy. It has some roots, but it doesn't like full sun, and I'm sure it doesn't like winter temperatures that go too low. So yeah, let's take that indoors. Moving a little bit further down the staging, we have a Pelargonium, and this is a very special Pelargonium, and I'll tell you why. So this is a hybrid that was made by my friend Liga, one of her own crosses. So she hybridizes Pelargoniums, and she has a couple of named varieties named after her daughters and niece, etc., etc. But this is one that only has a number so far. Poor little dear. But I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Such a fantastic flurry of flowers. I, of course, am not really in a position to say how different this is from other hybrids out there, or really, I suppose, what the criteria are, because I haven't really grown up for very long. But Liga from Potted Jewels is the one who has made this cross, and I feel very honoured that she has gifted me this plant and a couple of her other hybrids, which I won't show you now because they're not in flower, and I intend to do my best to grow them very, very well. Now, also, on this shelf here, you see a few little Codex plants. Yummy, yummy, yummy. But what you will also see is another Semponium. Oh, yes. So this is Semponium Destiny, like you saw on the shelf behind. And it's a cross. The Semponium genus is not a true genus. It's a cross between the house leek and the Aeonium. And the result is, well, some fantastic cultivars like this one called Destiny, which is just absolutely enormous and gorgeous. And you would think, wouldn't you, that because of the house leek input that the genus would be hardier, but apparently it's not. I work here on hearsay because I haven't grown these plants long enough to know how hardy they are. But house leeks are certainly hardy and Aeoniums are not. So you might think that the Semponium would be hardy, but apparently they're a little bit fussier than both. So what can I say? I also have a baby down here, 2 of them. So won't it be great if I get a couple of these going and can have some big displays of them. Incidentally, speaking of big rosettes in the permanent border in the greenhouse, don't you think that this Agave attenuata would look fantastic in the border? It is so wimpy in the pot, it just isn't getting going. Whereas if I put it in the border, maybe it would produce that enormous rosette. So I have mostly just epiphyllums down this end of the staging, but I forgot, yeah, up here. There's an epiphyllum here at my head, but there's another one over here, and look, it's coming into bud. And yes, this is an ugly plant. This is Oxypetalum, the night flowering epiphyllum. Flowers for just one night. So you can bet when this bud matures, or when these buds mature, although probably only one of them is going to make it, I'm going to be out here with the camera and with my nose on high alert, because those scented flowers are to die for. And down here on the floor, we have something quite exciting going on with this very large bulb underneath the support, the metal support. And I don't know, can you see, but it has a spike. So this is a spike that will produce a mass of tiny white flowers. And you know, that's why I grow these bulbs. So that's all I had planned to say to you about the glasshouse and the plants in it. But I do now want to take you briefly over to the greenhouse so you can see all my seedlings that are coming. Well, I did tell you the greenhouse was a mess, and that's exactly what it's for. This is the engine room of the garden. It's where everything happens, where plants are produced, where I have my seedlings, my propagations, and it's just wonderful to have this space. And if you're in Ireland and you're looking for a polycarbonate greenhouse like this, I highly recommend organicgarden.ie. Okay, so what have I got going on in here? And it's hard, like with the glasshouse, to know where to start. But on my right, we have plants in waiting. So these are mostly perennials that I've bought that will be planted out this autumn. We have my Amorphophallus collection and a few other aroids here. Again, doesn't matter that they're in the greenhouse. It is shady weather, so they're not going to get scorched. Just over there to your right are my Cymbidiums and Coleogynae orchids, hardy orchids. And one of them is actually in flower, can you believe? I'm a bit incredulous myself. And beside them, we have my Aloe collection. So the Aloes, like the Cymbidiums, they need a shadier position in summer than a full sun greenhouse will provide. So I put them outdoors. But this summer was just so awful with constant rain that I brought them back into the greenhouse. Besides, the weather became overcast, so I didn't fear that they would burn. And beside them we have, well, you know, some more aloes, because when you have an addiction, like a plant addiction, this is the way it goes. We have potting mixes, botanic houseplant potting mixes, and a variety of other things. And on this side, well, this is just where all the seedlings live. So I have so many biennial plants, the majority of which I intend to plant out this autumn. And you know what the result is going to be. The result is going to be that next year I'm not going to have a single gap in my garden. It's going to be filled with beautiful flower, from the Canterbury bells, lots of them, hollyhocks, lots of them. I've got snapdragons as well. I've got a couple of perennials too. So we have the blue lobelia, Lobelia syphilitica. I have stalks, scented stalks. I have sweet williams. I have foxgloves. I have some propagated geraniums. These are perennial plants, of course. And right here at the end, I have a selection of bulbs that my daughter picked up from a very cheap hardware shop. They gave them away because, well, they were rotting, but I managed to pick out some, and a present is a present. They got potted up, and now I hope they will go on and, well, do something, because that would be nice, wouldn't it? Plants for free. Everybody loves plants for free. And of course, my grapevine, wow, it has just gone mental along the side of the roof, which is great. I hope to be able to pick grapes and eat them next year, the first that I will allow myself to eat. So I guess that just about brings me to the end of this greenhouse update video. Hope you liked it. Please let me know what was your favourite bit. I can work on that and perhaps bring you more of what you like going forward. And as you set off into autumn, don't forget to order a few bulbs to plant in your garden. September is the best time to plant daffodil bulbs, and then we're on into the other ones and tulip bulbs to be planted right up through November. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!